Call of Duty Mobile has been out for about a month now, and while the game seems pretty straightforward to understand, there's a lot more depth than most casual players realize. So today, I've compiled 10 of the best tips that pro players use to greatly increase their skill. We're going to be covering everything from custom settings, the best loadouts, and how to win more and more gunfights. Now, if you like these types of videos, show some support down below by liking the video, subscribing, and turning on notifications to never miss an upload. The first thing we're going to be going over is having the proper sensitivity. When I first started playing Call of Duty Mobile, my screen was way too fast, I was constantly missing shots, my accuracy was awful, and when I tweaked a few things in the sensitivity category, my accuracy got a whole lot better and I started to win more and more gunfights. So navigate your way to the settings, select the sensitivity tab, and the first thing I recommend is switching it from accelerated sensitivity to fixed speed. What this means is when it's on fixed, no matter how fast you swipe your screen or turn to a different direction, it's always going to be the same speed. When it's on accelerated, if you move your finger really quickly, you're gonna turn even faster. And if you move your finger slow, then your guy in game is gonna look over more slow. So by having it on that fixed speed, I just found it helped with my overall accuracy. And to improve your aim even more, for me personally, I started off by just switching to the lowest of low sensitivity. It helped with close range gunfights. If the enemy was across the map, I was able to lock onto them without missing any shots. So by having fixed sensitivity and low, that should be enough to improve your aim tremendously, but there's so many more advanced settings to go through. So I suggest starting with fixed speed and a super slow sensitivity, and then you can kind of go from there. If low is too slow for you, you can increase it. Once you kind of get a good foundation, you can go through the rest of these settings and tweak them until you have the perfect aim. The second tip is pretty damn basic, but it's to play the game with headphones on. Footsteps are very loud. Half the time, if you're not running dead silence, it sounds like you're Iron Man. So make sure to play with your headphones in. I don't suggest playing music through your device or having any distractions around you, because having those headphones in gives you like a sixth sense. You're gonna start predicting enemies, you're gonna start hearing enemies you would have never heard before, and this is by far one of the most important tips. Moving on to tip number 3, this is going to be utilizing the different control layouts in your settings. So navigate your way on over to advanced controls and hit the edit button. You can customize your controls to whichever play style you would like. I know a lot of people prefer the claw play style. If you don't know what that is, it's when you still use your thumbs as your main source of navigation, but you also use your index fingers as well to click on some extra buttons. If you're left hand oriented opposed to the right hand, you can move all of these buttons on the right and just switch them on over to the left. So I definitely recommend you play with the controls and find what works best for you, because the odds are the default controller layout may be simple, but it definitely isn't the most effective. Tip number 4 is to utilize the minimap. This is one of the most crucial things in Call of Duty, and it offers more knowledge than just showing general map information. First off, if the enemy shoots with a non-suppressed weapon, they're gonna appear, like there'll be a big red dot and it's easy to navigate them. And if you or any of your teammates call in a UAV and the enemy isn't running the ghost perk, again, they're gonna appear as a big ol' red dot on your minimap. Now, tip number 5 ties into tip number 4, and this is going to be how to use your minimap to predict the enemy locations. When you're staring at the minimap, it's going to show the location of you and all of your teammates. And looking at my minimap, you can see all of my teammates are on one side and none of them are on the other. So since half of the map has none of my teammates, it's safe to assume that enemies are going to be spawning there. So if you want to find some people, head to the spot where your teammates aren't and be prepared for gunfights. Tip number 6 is called strafing. If you're unfamiliar with the term, it's essentially when you walk around while zooming in. I'm not saying to walk around the entire map zooming in and never not zooming out of your gun, but if you're utilizing that mini-map tip effectively, strafe to where you expect enemies to be. So for example, let's say you're about to walk into a building, zoom in your gun while you walk around the corner. Let's say you're approaching a flag in domination, zoom in before you approach the flag. It's a lot quicker to kill an enemy when you are already zoomed in compared to if you see the enemy last second and then have to zoom in before you shoot. Now sure, zooming in only takes like a second or so, but in a game like Call of Duty, every second matters, especially in a gunfight. So please, whenever you're about to walk into a building or you're walking into an area where you expect an enemy, just be zoomed in and expect an enemy to be there at any moment. Moving on to the next tip, this is using the right weapon for the right map. Example, you don't want to be sniping on a close range map because more often than not, a lot of your engagements are going to be very close range against submachine guns or assault rifles, and if you have a sniper rifle out, it's going to be very hard to kill them. Another example is you don't want to be using a shotgun on a map that has tons of long distance areas. You want to choose what's right depending on which map you're on. A general rule of thumb, assault rifles and submachine guns are pretty much good on every map, but to get a little bit more specific, let's say you're on a map that has lots of long lines of sight such as crossfire or raid, it may be smart to pick a weapon that has lower recoil so that way you can attack enemies at long range. But if you're on a map that has a lot of close range combat such as Kill House or Nuketown, a faster fire rate weapon may be the better pick. Moving on to the next tip, choosing the proper perks is so crucial in Call of Duty. If you're in a game mode like Search and Destroy, Dead Silence is always a must because as I stated previously, enemy footsteps are just super loud. It sounds like Iron Man stomping around, so in a game mode like Search where there's only one life, you want to be as stealthy as possible, and having Dead Silence makes your life super easy. And on the other end of the spectrum, if you're playing Search and Destroy, don't waste your time using Vulture because since your ammo restocks every round, the odds are you're not going to run out of ammo within a single round of Search and Destroy. If that's the case, I don't know what to tell you. In game modes like Domination, then Flak Jacket and Tactical Mask will be your best friend. When you're capping a flag, there's tons of explosives going off. People love to throw grenades, so by being able to soak up grenades and not be affected by tacticals, that's gonna let you cap and continue engaging in gunfights. In terms of a perk too, Toughness is pretty much one of the best perks in the game. It reduces the flinch when people are shooting at you, and that's gonna let you win more gunfights. But let's say you're playing a respawn game mode and you need ammo, then using the perk Vulture may be a solid choice as well. Truthfully, there's not one best set of perks, and there's tons of great perks in Call of Duty Mobile, so if you would like a dedicated video to the best and worst perks in the game, let me know down in my comment section below. Moving on to the next tip, use a powerful specialist. There's tons of specialists to choose from, and there's two in my mind that stick out from all of the others, and those two being the War Machine and the Scythe. So out of those, I would say the War Machine is my personal favorite. It's a grenade launcher and it one-hit kills everything. One tip, it is smart to use Flak Jacket with the War Machine because sometimes you may shoot an enemy that's close to you, a teammate may walk in the way of your shot and you can accidentally shoot them. So by having Flak Jacket on, if you accidentally damage yourself, you won't blow yourself up. And in terms of the Scythe, this is essentially a long-range minigun. It doesn't kill as quickly as the War Machine, but it definitely has more range. And in terms of the other specialists like the Tempest, the Purifier, the Sparrow, those are all okay dependent on the map and your play style, but in general, the War Machine and the Scythe are always going to be good no matter what kind of player you are and no matter what map you get. Now moving on to the final tip for today's video, this is going to be using the right graphical settings for your device. Under the graphics tab in your settings, there's a bunch of tweaks you can make here. The lower the quality, the more smooth your game will run. Most newer devices can handle max quality with high frame rate, but if you're running an older device that may not have the best hardware or technology, it may be smart to downscale a bit and sacrifice some quality to have a more smooth experience. So feel free to test both high and lower settings and find what works best for your device and your playstyle. Now, that was the final tip for today's video. If you learned something new, be sure to leave a like down below, subscribe to my channel, and turn on notifications to never miss an upload. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.